Hello and welcome to this special show on Rajya Sabha Television. I am Vishal Dahiya, and here we bring you all the developments with respect to India's fight against COVID-19. Now, one very important aspect in this battle against this particular pandemic has been the use of technologies, specifically the digital technologies, be it in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, data analytics, or the way we communicate. And this is not going to be only for this particular period, but in a post-COVID scenario as well, there is going to be a lot of impact on the way we have learned from our experiences of these technologies during this particular period. So to understand more and to analyze as to how they have impacted us and how further moving on, they will continue to impact our lives. We have a very distinguished panel of guests with us today. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Mr. Abhishek Singh. He is the CEO of NEGD with the Government of India. Also, we have Mr. Jain, the digital technology expert, and Mr. Parag Naik. He is the CEO of Saankhya Labs. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Rajya Sabha TV. Let's start the discussion. Let's start by trying to understand how digital technology has been used and what have been the benefits per se. Parag, let's start with you.
Thank you, Vishal, for having me on the show. I mean, just imagine if something of this sort had hit us about 15 years ago, right? I think we would have been in a far greater, worse situation than we are today. It's largely because, because of the technologies, the digital technologies, such as, the cloud stuff that has actually kind of given us a small cushion, at least for the cyber world, so to speak. As we went into COVID, as a company, we are a startup, and most startups are having, these are nuclear winters for a lot of startups, right? We thought, it's going to be a big, long winter, and we might have to hibernate. Turns out that certain sectors, such as ours, we are a hardware semiconductor company doing telecom, wireless telecom. It has never been so good. In fact, in the last 2 months, we have been closing far more deals than we would have earlier done that. And this is basically riding on the back. There is already a groundswell, I think, of a transition to the digital part of the. Also some of the stuff that the government has been doing on on the jam part and all of it. So riding on the back of it, this COVID situation actually acted as a catalyst, and it spurred, it created a groundswell and an inflection point. And some of the things like, entertainment, the way entertainment is being consumed, the way we are going to work, that's a new normal. In fact, we have not had some of our customers, we have not even seen them face to face, but we have been able to close deals. That's been the overall impact. That's the landing has been softer than it would have been if not for some of the digital technologies that we are so used to today.
Okay, definitely, Mr. Singh. From where you sit, from that perspective, if you look at in terms of management as well of the entire pandemic situation, as Parag is pointing out, it became much easier because of the technology part, if we compare to other pandemics which the world has faced earlier.
I would agree with what has been said by Parag and what you are saying. Data and analytics has played a big role in managing this pandemic better. If we look at examples across the country, if we look at Kerala, which is like touted world over for managing it better, very nicely and in a very efficient manner, even though the first case in India was in Kerala. The Corona Safe network that they said built there, which involved management of all the hospitals, all the infrastructure, the ventilators, the oxygen cylinders, intensive contact tracing, all of it was enabled through an open source platform which the government of Kerala had built. Similarly, if you look at Karnataka, the Bangalore Municipal Corporation, they've set up a war room very early in the pandemic. They started analyzing data which was coming from various sources. They analyzed it in the war room, then tried to identify the hotspots, tried to identify the emerging hotspots, and use AI with the support of Vadhvani AI and fractal analytics and all, and then tried to manage the pandemic very well. Mumbai also did the same thing. If you look at the Mumbai's entire approach, the way the pandemic was contained in very highly populated areas like Dharavi, there also data and analytics and technology played a big role in trying to segregate the various categories of patients. Because in COVID-19, what we observe is that some of the patients are asymptomatic, but they have the virus. So the patients have mild symptoms, they have the virus, and some of them are highly infectious. So the entire data which emerged, whether from Lombardy in Italy, Spain, or US or China, this was analyzed by epidemiologists and experts, and data gave us insights into which are the number of days when the when the viral load is the highest and when the highest risk of infection is there. So based on this, the entire strategy has been planned, which is helping us to contain the pandemic to some extent. And similarly, if you look at the biggest contact tracing app which is built across the world, the Arogya Setu app, it's relying entirely on data. It's relying on use of algorithms which rely on epidemiological data, which rely on historical data, which do the most extensive Bluetooth contact tracing, the location mapping, and then tries to identify the vulnerable sections of the people who need to be tested. The
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, please continue. Please continue, Mr.
Yeah. So the Bluetooth contacts which have been tested after identified through the Arogya Setu app, you realize that there the number of people who are turning positive is almost 24 to 25%, as against the usual 6% positive across the country. When you look at the entire testing which has been done, the 7.35 million tests which have done till date, the actual percentage of positives is only 6%. Against this, when you do testing of the Bluetooth contacts with the data given by the Arogya Setu app, the positive percentage is 25%. This shows that it becomes your testing becomes more efficient, and you are optimally able to utilize your testing infrastructure, your frontline health workers, and your health machinery is better equipped to handle it. Then the location data is giving us information with regard to hotspots, and hotspots are being identified at the sub pin code level, 300 meters to 300 meters area, and there we are able to predict spread of the pandemic around 10 to 12 days in advance. So this has greatly helped states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, which have used this data in order to ensure restrictions are placed, even though right now there are no cases. But because of data is showing that cases may rise in the next 2 weeks, then we take precautions and we are able to contain the spread of the pandemic. So this way, data, analytics, technology, AI has been playing a great role in controlling the pandemic. And if we go across, other than the pandemic, the entire work from home infrastructure, which allowed the country to continue, the government to continue to function, companies to function, and the way children have adopted to online classes, the role of technology in the last 3 months has been immense in any sector that you may think of. Yeah.
Okay, but very important aspect, Mr. Singh, you brought about is it's not only about enhancing capacity and capability, but also increasing the efficiency part as well. Jiten, if you look at technology specifically, and they use as well artificial intelligence, cloud computing, data analytics. These were considered to be niche domains not so long ago. But this particular pandemic seems to have brought the fact that they can be utilized for ground level work as well, and very effectively also.
Well, look at this. I think, people in IT always believe that technology can transform so many things. But, but it was only the IT sector we saw that transformation, a dream. But, what this pandemic has done, I think the kind of response India could give is widely because of technology. I think if you look at the entire contact tracing today, when we are standing at 4 lakh positive cases, if it was not for technology like Arogya Setu or mobile-based contact tracing, this level of contact tracing to respond to 4 lakh positive patients would have never been possible. This has also thrown challenges because we are a democracy. Law and order is a state subject. We are seeing 20 different apps by 20 different states. So one of the things we also have to look at, we should learn our lessons. If Arogya Setu is successful, is doing its job, I think every state should adopt to Arogya Setu instead of having 20. It will amplify the response. It will create a cohesion of data where you can have a lot of analytics going countrywide. Right
Integration
now,
of data.
Government would have. Not even. Why should we integrate? We should have only one single app. You should only integrate when you have to have different structures. When the one common structure can work, integration should not happen. It is like repeating, reinventing the wheel. So, we never imagined in India that our bureaucracy, our government could also go online. could also, do work from home. So this is, I think, one of the forced transformation which this pandemic has given, that the institutions like government or institution like automobile sector, where work from home was considered, a strict no-go, has also undergone that. So that's one of the advantages that, like we used to listen of Estonia, that, entire cabinet takes cabinet meetings online, decisions are taken online. So, and they used to say that even if Russia was to invade us tomorrow or bomb us tomorrow, and even if the entire Estonia was destroyed, our government will still continue because we operate out of embassies on cloud and everything. So, I mean, today that the same is true for India, that 90% of our governance can continue to effectively work. I'm saying effectively work online, even if the physical presence are not their offices. So that, I think that is a huge transformation which has gone. Now, third, for IT sector and other sectors, so, many companies are saying, again, it is not a reliable data, that uh, during work from homes, our productivity has rather increased, because people are, able to utilize time which they used to spend hours and hours while traveling to offices and coming back. That time is now saved and is utilized for productive work. People are more comfortable in the home environment. There are less leaves. So I think in many, especially in IT sector, they are saying that productivity is increasing. Obviously, there are challenges of security. There are challenges of, having a. But if the lockdown was planned, I'm sure those challenges will also have been taken care of. Like, cyber security infrastructure, which many companies did not have, which they are now opting to. A fourth, I want to say that, it has, like, Abhishek also mentioned about adoption of e-schooling by kids. I think that's where the entire challenge lies.
Mm-hmm.
Our digital hygiene levels are not that. I mean, we have seen huge transformation of India under Digital India program. There is a, segment of population in India which has logged on to the internet for the first time in their lives. These are highly, vulnerable to online frauds. There are people, I mean, and I'm not talking about uneducated class, or, it's not about education. It's about an age segment. It's about a segment which has bought the smartphone for the first time in their lives. They still fall prey to OTP frauds. They still fall prey to this, lottery scams.
Mm-hmm.
They still fall prey to cyberbullying. So I think this unplanned, uncontrolled exposure of children to the online world will also throw up lot many challenges. And as a country, we have to understand few lessons which this pandemic has, taught us in a very brazen manner.
Okay.
A country of 1.5 billion people, where majority of kids, we are a young population, right, are forced to go to online school, and our country do not have our own so-called video calling app. I mean, we either were dependent on Zoom, we were dependent on Skype or Google Meets. So, I think there's a huge opportunity following the call of Prime Minister Atmanirbhar Bharat, that if we could build the solutions here within India, there is a huge market available now. So earlier people used to say, even if I build, kharidega kaun? So that market is available. And the last point, similarly, I mean, you see 90% of the email technologies worked by the government or hosted by NIC also. Backend पे या तो Zimra चल रहा है, या फिर somebody is using Microsoft Outlook or Google Apps. I think that's also a opportunity now for India to build their own indigenous apps, because there is a market available now. And apart from Atmanirbhar Bharat, this whole call of boycott China apps and stuff presents a huge opportunity for Indian entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
my point is that innovate on these core sectors where we are lacking, our online apps, our online mailing systems. So dependencies on foreign goods will reduce. We will have a ready market. And at the same time, we would be able to innovate on our own money, and we'll be able to, vitalize our economy.
Okay, so indigenous innovation as far as furthermore indigenous innovation as far as digital technologies are concerned. Parag, I'd like to bring you in here, and let's move a bit further. If you could look at listing down several aspects of this digital technology which have not only helped us during this particular period, but in a post-COVID period as well, will continue to stay with us, will have a lot of impact on our lives, will have a lot of impact of on the way we carry on with our lives.
Yeah, sure. Vishal, I think just to add to what Abhishek and Jiten said on the education part, on the online education part. In fact, I've always maintained that we have moved away from an information deficit era, where we grew up as kids with, getting access to books was so difficult, to an information rich era, right? So the way you got to do education is going to be very different from what, and this is going to be a trigger point. And coming back to your specific question on there's a whole lot of technologies, right? It's what I call the cyber physical infrastructure. It's not just Just like we have got roads, we want to lay roads to ensure that there's a smooth supply chain. You all for transfer of goods and all of that. You also need to have a parity in the telecom infrastructure across the country. One of the things that I see, because the migrant labor has gone back, and they're not going to come from reasonable. I'm not an expert on that. They're not going to come back reasonably soon. There will be a lot of need for connectivity in rural areas, right? And connectivity 20 years back was thought of as a luxury. It's no longer a luxury, right? It's gone to a point where it's going to the next level, where these apps that we are using today will start to get used in rural areas, and we need to build an infrastructure there. Now, I work in, I'm not a IT guy. We are a semiconductor company, especially for the telecom side. And in telecom, in the last 20 years, if you see, there's been a revolution, and all these things have happened because of certain policies that were taken in 99-2000 time frame, the National Telecom Policy, and that have resulted in all these technologies. But that has helped the demand side a lot, right? So we have always had a problem with the supply side. There's absolutely no Indian manufacturer today of phones, of telecom infrastructure equipment and all of that. And like Jiten said, the COVID part and also the macro wind of anti-China sentiments all over the world is actually going to give a big boost to telecom hardware, indigenous telecom hardware manufacturing, and also design in India, right? So you will see a lot of people come out. You will see a lot of, in fact, we are, as we speak, we are also building our own phone for certain application in the US. So people will start to build phones, will go to build hardware. That hardware ecosystem is actually also going to take place. That, to me, is one of the biggest trends. The other ones are, I think, there is, at least in my field, there's this marrying. We are marrying AI ML to the telecom layer at the RF part. So that is going to generate a lot of data, and that's going to make telecom infrastructure more efficient. And in India, we are at the forefront of that, and that is actually also going to roll. And then the applications, I think Abhishek and Jiten will add to it. I mean, there's a lot of other applications that would come around, and there's new business models that we actually wouldn't have thought would have happened. In fact, most of our vegetables today are now coming directly through the farmer. In fact, we a lot of times talk to farmers and get that. So they are connected, and therefore they are able to now deliver directly, cutting the middleman out. So those second order benefits are also going to improve. And the other last point is the other second order benefit I see is basically increase in automation in India, right? Generally everywhere. So I think there is you'll see a lot of dishwasher sales going up. You'll see a lot of washing machine sales going up, and people will go to doing more productive jobs than the regular menial job, is what I foresee.
Okay, that's quite a sum up in terms of going in and trying to expect what to what might happen there. Mr. Singh, I'd like to bring in here on some aspects which both Jiten and Parag is pointing out. As far as digital connectivity is concerned, that will have to be taken care of. So obviously the government would be looking to resolve that in terms of policy. Cyber security is also one very important aspect, because now that we're talking about digital technologies, security is a really, really important aspect. But what will impact our lives, continue to impact our lives in terms of the kind of technologies which we use?
See, like both Jiten and Parag have highlighted very key issues, and what you have mentioned is the key to enabling all of it. With connectivity, high-speed connectivity, the demand for bandwidth is growing up across. And if you talk to all telcos these days, in the last 3 months, the amount of bandwidth that we consumed has really grown beyond what it used to be, the normal growth. And for that, the government has already decided to fast forward the implementation of the Bharat Broadband Network, which seeks to provide fiber-based connectivity in all our 250,000 villages, out of which I think more than 100,000 are already connected. And once the fiber goes to the village, all the key locations with regard to the primary school, the sub-center, the primary health center, or the Anganwadi center and the Panchayat Bhavan, they all get connectivity. And once they get connected, then they get access to information and data of all kinds. And when we talk of e-learning, which was just mentioned, one very key feature that has been noticed in the last few months is that while private schools and public schools have adopted to e-learning and online classes through various video conferencing platforms very rapidly, but the same has not happened in the rural areas. The same has not happened in government schools. So are we going to create a digital divide? So the government is conscious of this kind of scenario appearing. We should not create a new digital haves and digital have-nots.
And that is why I believe that policy which was announced by the Prime Minister as well, e-Vidya, PM e-Vidya, wherein a lot of efforts are being taken to not only ensure digital technology is used but also traditional technology like radio and television.
Yeah, the Swayam Prabha channel, under the PM e-Vidya, we already have around 32 Swayam Prabha channels which will broadcast content for schools and education, and all they need is a TV to access that, so that reduces the cost of access. Now that has been expanded to include 12 more channels for classes 1 to 12. And there's a huge effort going on to create content for all classes in all languages, which will be made easily available. We are also in talks with Ministry of Human Resource Development. Can we think of providing tablets, or can we think of providing devices to people with the textbook content preloaded? Because anyway, we distribute textbooks to around 10 crore children every year. So if preloaded tablets or preloaded devices are provided with textbooks, then they can last for a couple of years. So the cost that will be required will be a fraction, will be only a little more compared to what we already spend on textbooks. So that is one work which we are working on. We are also working, the Ministry of Electronics and IT, where I work, we also launched a PLI scheme which will give incentive to people who will manufacture electronics products, telephones, devices in India. So the PLI scheme with incentives of more than 50,000 crores has recently been announced, and that is going to push manufacturing in India. So if e-content textbooks tablets are also manufactured in India, that will be a win-win, because at one hand we will be addressing the challenge of e-learning in government schools and poorer sections of society, as also boosting electronics manufacturing. And while we do all that, the other issue that you highlighted, of cybersecurity, that's very critical, because we have also seen while adoption of digital technologies in the last few months has gone up, but so has the number of cyber attacks. The number of cyber attacks we have been subjected to in the last few months, and more so in the last few days, has really gone up. This is something that we need to learn with it. We have friendly neighbors who always indulge in this kind of activities. So all that we need to do is to secure our public portals, public websites, make people aware of do's and don'ts. And when more and more people are now doing financial transactions, the UPI has seen a growth which was phenomenal in the last 3-4 years. The number of digital transactions and small value digital transactions which happens in India doesn't happen anywhere in the world. And while we are doing that, how do we make aware of people of taking basic precautions of not revealing their OTPs, or when they are using a Google Pay, or when they are using a Phone Pay or Paytm, what are the precautions that they should take? So this cyber awareness is a very critical part of our campaigns that we do. Then having safe passwords, securing them well, not using free software, avoiding Trojans. So these are all part of the cybersecurity campaign, because as more and more people adopt to that, we become more vulnerable. But it doesn't mean that there are no solutions to that. There are solutions to that. And that's what we are working on. Another issue which I would just like to address was what Mr. Jiten mentioned with regard to the video conferencing solutions. In fact, yes, we are conscious of that. In the month of April, we have launched a VC solution challenge for startups. And that was one of the most innovative challenges, because it allowed even college students who do not even have a startup registered to compete in it. And initially, we thought that we will not get any companies which will have ready-made products, but we are surprised that we got 2,000 entries. And now those 2,000 entries have been further pruned down to 12 who have built their prototypes, and their prototypes are being evaluated now, and the top 3 will be shortlisted in the next 1 week, and the best solution which will come out of this will get a Government of India contract for 1 crore rupees for offering VC solutions to Government of India. And you will be amazed to know that many of these companies who have built these solutions have capabilities as good as a Zoom or as good as a Teams, and some of them much more. In fact, I will just mention that there is a couple of solutions which even came up with artificial intelligence enabled into the VC solution, so that in case you are sitting at a place where your face doesn't have light, very often it happens, like your face appears dark. So they have AI tools which brightens your face up in case that happens. And there are some who have come up with solutions that in case there is a dog barking, or there is a pressure cooker going in the background, which happens very often in work from home scenarios, they dim that noise and enhance your voice So that effect is nullified. So these kind of features our startups are thinking of, and there is no reason we will not be able to build up a product which will be world class, which will be able to which will be able to not only provide services to the Indian government but Indian corporates, but also to world over. Similarly, for the email solutions, the instant messaging solutions, so there are a lot of apps which we are using because of ease of convenience, and they are equivalent Indian apps or Indian companies who are building it. We just need to handhold them, we just need to support them, and very soon they will not be able to become India leaders but global leaders. So that is where the power of entrepreneurship lies. Yeah.
Okay, definitely very important, significant aspects out there, and that's a interesting point. But Jiten, concluding comments from you. We've heard where we are, what needs to be done, and in terms of what more can be done to ensure level playing field, ensure security, ensure online education as well. But from here onwards, what is it that we can expect in terms of technologies which will impact us more? And it's obviously what we have learned during the COVID period, but in the post-COVID period as well, what will stay with us?
I think work from home will stay with us for long in all the sectors, not only in IT, not only because it is convenient, because it reduces cost. So you see, already in countries like Singapore and countries like, especially in countries like Europe, you would find that a company with 1,000 employees have only 100-seater capacity in offices because 900 people are always in field, and they have this reserve office of 100 seats that whoever is in office on that day can utilize that capacity. So imagine a company permanently having only 100 people, capacity in office. So I think this will happen in India also, that people will prefer work from homes, both the employers and employees. It will not only bring out the cost of the entire product delivery, but also the cost of infrastructure.
Okay.
Second, I think I really like the point Abhishek brought out that while we all go gaga and celebrate this whole transformation of technology, we have to be very, very, very careful and alert of this emerging digital divide, as you rightly pointed out, especially in the rural areas and the rural schools. A section of society, people at the last leg of society who do not have access to technology. So even if you give them technology, like give them tablets or something, how would you teach them the safe use? How would you make them comfortable using the technology? I'm sure many people do not like this so-called Amazon books and stuff. They prefer to read the physical book. So first challenge would be to make children and the teachers comfortable, especially in the rural area, with this technology. Second, most of the learnings in India happens at home. So even if you were to do that, how would you make those farmers and the other rickshaw pullers whose children would get those tablets? How do you make them comfortable with the technology to do with the children? So I think there are challenges. And because we have acknowledged the problem, I'm sure we will find solutions. And the second thing, what I'm seeing is the change of attitude in the government. Of acknowledging the problems. Like, this is one example which I pointed out, that, like Abhishek acknowledged the problem and he's looking for solutions. Similarly, 4 or 5 years ago, if you were to find any vulnerability or point out any security flaw in any government app, the first response will be denial, second response would be delayed, and third response would be to create confusion. This entire thing has changed now. Look at Arogya Setu. The moment any allegations of any sort of, spying came in, the NIC was quick enough to release a detailed rebuttal, and which was so transparent and so confidence boosting that today Arogya Setu is one of the most trusted apps in the world because they've made the entire code open source.
Jiten, we're running short of time. Yes.
They're running a bounty program. So this whole transformation of within the government of being transparent, acknowledging problems and finding right solutions will stay forever. So my best wishes to whoever is doing whatever innovations like Abhishek in MyGov. I'm sure their benefits what we get from these platforms will be passed on to the rural areas, and that is where our focus should be on now. That the urban areas will do whatever is need to be done. We have to focus on delivering the technology and transformation and adaptation to the rural areas, to the last leg of society.
Okay, there it is, as pointed out by all our panelists. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhishek, Singh, Parag, and Jiten there as well for sharing your views with us. As all of them are pointing out, it's a whole new world, entirely new normal. Obviously, we've taken some time, might take some more time to adjust to all these things. And there are benefits as well, but then there are challenges also, and we'll have to find solutions to those challenges as well, not only dwell upon the opportunities. We'll come back again tomorrow with a different topic. Till then, you keep watching Rajya Sabha Television, and do not forget, forget to follow all the norms with respect to social distancing, and please step out of your house only with a face mask on. Thank you.